They stand like statues carved from stone, faces blank, eyes forward, bodies perfectly still beneath heavy wool and polished brass. Tourists gather, cameras flash, children wave their hands inches from unblinking faces. The guards do not react, they do not smile, they do not flinch. But this is only what the world sees. What happens when the gates close? When the crowds disperse and the cameras lower? What fills the hours between those frozen moments of public duty? The life of a royal guard extends far beyond the ceremonial post, deep into corridors the public never enters, through routines refined over centuries, bound by rules most civilians cannot imagine. This is the story of that hidden life. The day begins long before dawn. While the city sleeps, barracks lights flicker on. There is no gradual waking, no lingering in warmth. A guard's morning starts at attention. Boots hit the floor in unison. Beds are made with hospital corners so tight a coin could bounce from the surface, every wrinkle smoothed, every edge aligned. Inspections occur without warning, and a poorly made bed can result in disciplinary action that affects an entire unit. Breakfast is efficient, not leisurely. Meals are taken at specific times, in designated areas, often in silence or quiet conversation. The food is nourishing but plain. There is no menu, no choice. A guard eats what is provided when it is provided. Even here, posture matters. Back straight, elbows controlled. The discipline of the post extends to every moment, every movement, every space. After breakfast comes the first inspection of the day. Uniforms are examined with ruthless precision. A loose thread, a dull button, a crease out of place. These are not minor oversights, but failures of standard. Guards stand in formation as superior officers move down the line, eyes trained to catch imperfection invisible to the untrained observer. Boots must shine like mirrors. Brass must gleam without a single fingerprint. The bearskin cap, weighing nearly 2 pounds, must sit at the exact regulation angle. Those who fail inspection do not simply fix the problem and move on. They face consequences designed to reinforce the standard. Extra duties, loss of privileges, public acknowledgement of the deficiency. The message is clear. In this role, there is no acceptable margin for error. The uniform itself is a burden most people never consider. The tunics are wool, designed for an era before climate control, unbearably hot in summer. The leather chin strap of the bearskin digs into the jaw during long stands. The rifle, though unloaded during ceremonial duty, grows heavier with each passing hour. Guards learn to distribute weight, to lock joints without appearing rigid, to breathe shallowly so the chest does not rise and fall noticeably. They are taught to see without moving their eyes, to hear without turning their heads. Peripheral vision becomes a developed skill. A guard knows when someone approaches from the side, when a tourist steps too close, when a superior officer enters the courtyard. All of this registered and processed without a single visible reaction. The standing shifts can last 2 hours. 2 hours without shifting weight from one foot to the other. 2 hours without scratching an itch, adjusting a collar, or wiping sweat from the brow. In rain, they stand. In heat, they stand. In cold that numbs fingers and toes, they stand. The body protests, muscles cramp, joints ache. The mind offers 1,000 reasons to move, to break position, to seek relief. This is where the true training reveals itself. Not in the marching drills or the rifle handling, but in the mental discipline required to override every natural impulse. Guards are taught techniques to manage discomfort, to partition the mind, to count breaths, to focus on a single point until time becomes elastic and the shift passes in fragments rather than as one unbearable stretch. Fainting is not uncommon, especially among newer guards or during extreme weather. When a guard falls, protocol is immediate. The guard is removed from position without ceremony, attended to out of public view, and replaced seamlessly. There is no shame in the medical emergency itself, but there is expectation that a guard will learn their limits and employ the techniques to avoid collapse. Hydration schedules, nutrition timing, breathing patterns, all are studied and practiced. Between public duties, training continues. Physical conditioning is constant. Running, strength work, endurance drills. But equally important is the ceremonial training. Hours spent perfecting the precision march, the rifle movements, the coordinated routines performed during the changing of the guard. Every step measured to the inch, every turn executed at the exact angle, every movement synchronized with fellow guards so perfectly that the unit moves as one organism. This synchronization requires trust built over countless repetitions. Guards train together, eat together, sleep in the same quarters. They learn each other's rhythms, anticipate each other's movements. When one guard performs the elaborate rifle inspection during the changing ceremony, spinning the weapon, checking the mechanism, slamming it back into position, the timing must align perfectly with the others. A fraction of a second off, and the entire presentation falls apart. Hierarchy governs every interaction. Junior guards address senior guards with formal respect. Orders are followed without question or hesitation. This is not oppression, but structure. In an environment where precision and coordination are essential, there can be no ambiguity about chain of command. A junior guard does not offer suggestions to a corporal. A corporal does not override a sergeant. Yet within this rigid structure, there exists mentorship. Senior guards remember their own early struggles. They teach younger guards the unspoken techniques for managing the long stands, for maintaining the uniform, for earning the respect of superior officers. This knowledge is not written in any manual. It is passed through example and quiet guidance. Night watch carries its own demands. While ceremonial duties pause, security responsibilities continue around the clock. Guards walk designated routes, check locks and seals, monitor access points. The palace or official residence becomes a different place in darkness. Shadows pool in corners. Every sound amplifies. Footsteps echo on stone floors. Here, alone in the quiet hours, a guard must maintain the same alertness as during the day. There is no audience, no camera to record dedication. Only the knowledge that the duty remains, whether witnessed or not. This is perhaps the truest test. To maintain standard when no one is watching, when cutting a corner would go unnoticed, when fatigue whispers that a brief rest would harm nothing. Guards resist these whispers, not because punishment awaits discovery, but because the standard has become internal. The discipline is no longer imposed from outside, but held from within. Days blend into weeks, weeks into months. The routine becomes rhythm. Wake, inspect, train, stand, train, stand, train, rest. The monotony itself is a challenge. The mind craves variety, novelty, stimulation. But guards learn to find meaning in repetition, to take pride in consistency, to understand that reliability is itself a virtue. There are moments of relief. Scheduled leave allows guards to return to civilian life temporarily, to reconnect with family and friends, to remember the world beyond the barracks. These breaks are essential for mental health, for maintaining perspective, for preventing the role from consuming identity entirely. But even on leave, habits persist. Guards find themselves standing straighter in public, critiquing their own posture, noting details others miss. The training seeps into civilian life, shaping how they move through the world, even when the uniform hangs in a locker. The physical toll accumulates over years. Knees suffer from the long, static standing. Backs ache from the weight of equipment and the demands of perfect posture. Feet develop calluses and structural issues from hours in rigid boots. Many guards serve limited terms, rotating back into regular military duties or civilian life before the ceremonial role causes permanent damage. Yet they look back on the experience with pride. They joined something larger than themselves. upheld a tradition stretching back generations, stood at the intersection of history and present moment. They learned what they were capable of enduring, discovered reserves of patience and strength they did not know existed. The moral embedded in this life is not complex, but it is profound. The Royal Guard teaches that true discipline is invisible. It is not the dramatic gesture or the public declaration, but the private commitment honored when no one watches. It is the choice made in the dark hallway on the night watch, the standard maintained during the inspection no one expected, the posture held through the final minute of an agonizing shift. It teaches that duty is often unglamorous. There is no glory in standing still for 2 hours in the rain, no applause for the perfectly made bed or the flawlessly polished boot. Yet these small acts accumulate into something meaningful. They build character. They create reliability. They forge people who can be trusted with greater responsibilities because they proved faithful in lesser ones. It teaches patience, not the passive waiting for time to pass, but the active patience that endures discomfort, that persists through difficulty, that understands some things cannot be rushed or avoided, but only lived through with grace. It teaches the power of restraint. In a world that celebrates expression and individuality, there is wisdom in learning to be still, to hold back reaction, to master impulse. The guard who does not flinch at provocation, who does not break position despite discomfort, demonstrates a form of strength more difficult than any physical feat. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches that quiet service matters. The world fixates on spectacle, on performance, on those who command attention. But civilization rests on the shoulders of those who show up, who do their job without fanfare, who maintain standards whether noticed or not. The guard at the gate in the pre-dawn darkness, checking locks while the palace sleeps, is as essential as the one photographed by thousands at noon. When the day ends and the guard returns to the barracks, when the uniform comes off and the tired body finally rests, there is satisfaction available nowhere else. Not the satisfaction of praise or recognition, but the deeper contentment that comes from knowing you did what was required, you held the line, you honored the trust placed in you. This is the life when no one is watching. This is the reality behind the frozen faces and the polished brass. This is the discipline that shapes not just guards, but human beings capable of rising above comfort and convenience to serve something greater than themselves. The lesson extends far beyond palace gates. In every life, there are duties that require us to stand when we want to sit, to continue when we want to quit, to maintain standards when no one would know if we slipped. The guard reminds us that character is not what we do when the world is watching, but what we do in the moments between, when only we know, when only we can hold ourselves accountable. That is the quiet strength they model. That is the gift they offer to those willing to see beyond the ceremony. The Royal Guard, standing silent at the gate, is not merely a tradition or a spectacle. They are a living reminder that true honor requires no audience, that real strength is often silent, and that the most important work is often the work no one sees.